There has been huge decline in the wetland wildlife in the UK. Declines in wetland birds, declines in wetland mammals and wetland invertebrates. Wetlands are essential for our water and for the air that we breathe. The UK has lost 90% of its natural wetland area. In the carbon landscape, we want to reverse this decline. My name is Steve. I am one of the Carbon Landscape Project Support Officers. So what is a wetland? Wetland is a land that has a wet and spongy soil, such as a marsh, swamp or bog. In the carbon landscape, there are many different types of wetlands. Wet woodlands, wet grasslands, reed beds, lakes, rivers, ponds, marshes, streams and peat bogs, to name but a few. Wetland conservation is important for its unique wildlife, like this bittern here. Wetlands store and clean our drinking water. Wetlands store water so that it doesn't overwhelm our towns, villages and cities. And wetlands are great places for us to relax, recharge and just enjoy life. There are many different species of wildlife that enjoy wetlands and thrive on wetlands. Waterfowl, such as the teal. Birds, such as this reed bunting. Common darter dragonflies and other insects. Water voles and many other mammals. And amphibious creatures such as the great crested newt. So how do our volunteers help us to manage our wetlands? One of the major ways of management we use is fen cuts or reed bed management. We take an established reed bed, cut it down to ground level using a machine such as a reciprocating mower, and this gives a new habitat perfect for different invertebrates, which in turn attracts different birds and different mammals. As you can see, there are different kinds of fen cuts, random and uniform. This depends on personal management preference, but I prefer the random as it is more natural. Notice each year only certain areas are cut, leaving different levels of reed bed growth, therefore different habitats. When controlling reed beds, it's important to remove the reed cuts immediately. This stops the litter layer forming, preventing soil enrichment, which would then stop native reeds and plants growing. It stops natural succession to scrub and woodland. By stopping willows and alders growing, it stops the reed bed becoming eventually a woodland. It also helps to remove invasive species such as Himalayan balsam, and it also stops reed beds from drying out. It stops trees like alder and willow drinking all the water for a start. A new reed bed should aim to provide the following. Around 25 to 30% of it should be open water, with meres, pools and ditches. 40 to 50% of a wetland should be wet reed, standing in water all year. 15 to 25% should be drier reed, a reed bed that dries out some of the time. And 5 to 10% should be wet and dry scrub such as alder or willow. This is achieved by digging scrapes, creating ponds, digging channels and creating reed islands in the wetland. Sometimes management requires us to control the water levels, managing a wetland for different species at different times of the year, for example. A sluice, usually made with boards, so we can add or take away a board to allow water to move from one area to another, if one area is too dry or another too wet. A pipe dam or overtopping weir, once the water gets to a certain level, it then flows into the next section, slowing the water flow down. These methods serve to slow the flow of water and help to store it and to also create different habitats. Some wetlands actually need their water level lowering to benefit migratory wading birds, such as the common sandpiper, the lapwing and the godwit. Water in another area may need to be raised for resident waterfowl to flourish, such as the shelduck, the shoveler duck and the gadwall. To manage a wetland, we also need to manage any invasive species. Plants like Himalayan balsam, giant hogweed, Japanese knotweed and New Zealand pygmyweed. What these do is they outcompete and rob the native plants of light, so they need to be removed. In the carbon landscape, we put safety first, so our volunteers have to use protection. Gloves protect our hands from cuts, stings and blisters. Steel toe-capped wellies protect our feet from dropped tools, logs and protect our ankles on uneven terrain. They also keep our feet dry. Waders, just like the wellies, but we can go a little bit deeper with these. The kinds of equipment used in fen cuts and reed bed management are things like the reciprocating mower, a special kind of mowing machine. Training is needed to use one of these though. A brush cutter for smaller areas, again training and a license is needed for one of these. You could also use a scythe. This requires training and a lot of hard work, but it is a more traditional method. We can also use a rake and a wheelbarrow to remove the reeds and the horizon so it doesn't rot down. As a carbon landscape volunteer, you are eligible for our rewards and recognition package. You can complete the Wetland Conservation AQA accreditation. All you have to do is ask for one of these sheets from your group leader and volunteer. Each time you achieve one of these outcomes, get your group leader to fill in the date, complete 10 hours of volunteering on a wetland, and we'll get you the accreditation. If you have any questions, please email us. The address is there on the page. You can also check out our website, and please follow us on our social media networks. Thank you very much.